Welcome to the third class of our series, of our Kabbalah series. This class is titled The Infinite Light. So if you open up your maps, you'll see that during the first class, you should have, everyone should have one of these. If not, you can pass it around a bit. The first class we spoke about three worlds, Biyah, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, which correspond to thought, speech, and action, which in Hebrew are Levushei HaNefesh. This is only a summary from the previous classes.
Thank you.
Levushei HaNefesh means the garments of the soul, your behaviors. Machshava, dibur, maaseh, thought, speech, and action. Everything we do is either thought, speech, or action, right? And that's in the first class. As in the second class, we spoke about Atzilut, which is the highest of the four worlds in spirituality, and how it corresponds to the 10 attributes. That was the last class, right? Every person has 10 attributes, 10 characteristics. 3 of them are intellectual, and 7 of them are emotional. We didn't speak about them so much. We spoke about chesed and gvura, which is kindness and strength and restraint, the opposite of kindness. Because those exist in the spiritual world of Atzilut, so they exist in our souls as well. Okay, today we're talking about the infinite. Finally, we've reached the infinite light, which is not part of a world. It's higher than that, okay? And that is corresponding to the soul itself, okay? So there's the kochot hanefesh, which is the characteristics, the tools, the powers, the soul powers. And then there are the soul garments, right? The levushei hanefesh. And today we're going to talk about the soul, full stop. That's the soul, and that is infinite light, which we're going to talk about. It's called Ein Sof. Now, this is just a bit of an introduction, a bit of an overview, what we're going to talk about. But let's start with, by the way, you'll be on page 74 in the student book, page 74. We're going to talk about angels, right? We haven't spoken about angels yet. We spoke a little bit about the soul. We spoke about the spiritual worlds, but we haven't spoken about angels. So for those which it's their first time, very important foundation is that we are a mirror to the divine, which means we're not just talking about abstract things. Everything which we talk about also exists inside of our soul. So this is important because you can help yourself, you can work on your own character if you understand what's going on inside of you. That is very important to realize. That it's a mirror. Okay, so whatever we're saying in the spiritual, we will later translate in our emotions, in our intellect, in our souls. We can point our fingers on different aspects of our lives, how we can. And then we're going to try and actually make it practical, give ourselves some real exercises, some real goals. But anyhow, angels. We talk about angels in the prayers, right? Shacharit, we pray every day, we talk about angels. And one of the things we say is Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. The only word that we say 3 times is Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. And it's quite famous. It means holy, holy, holy. And the idea is that the angels, it's a quote from a prophecy, the prophet of Yeshayahu, who talks about a vision that he saw, the angels. The angels are saying, Kadosh, 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 to God, right? Holy, holy, holy. So now if you look in your book, page 74, you will see Seraphim stood above. This is the vision of Yeshayahu, which is in English, Isaiah, right? Seraphim stood above him with 6 wings, to each one, and one called to the other and exclaimed, Kadosh, 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 holy, holy, holy is the God of hosts. The entire earth is full of his glory. Now, what is significant about these words, right? What is does it matter? What is this vision? What is so significant about this, right? So let's, in order to understand this, we take a step back again. First lesson, we spoke about Biyah. Biyah is Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, the world of creation. Translated is creation, formation, and Asiya was making. Does it say over here? No. The physical. The physical. Shaping, yeah. The physical. So Asiya is already our physical world, but higher than that is spiritual. And what we explained, the levels, the only difference is the awareness, the ego that this world has. And the reason why each world has more ego than the one higher than it is because it's further away from its source. It's further away from God. So God made these worlds, and then eventually you get to the completely egoistic world, the world which feels only itself and doesn't realize its source, and that is our world. Okay? That's the first lesson. Thought, speech, and action. Then the last lesson, the previous lesson, we spoke about Atzilut, which is the world of animation. Animation means it's just a continuation of what was before, and that is because Atzilut, the highest world, doesn't have an ego at all. It doesn't have a sense of self. It is just a mirror of the spiritual of godliness, spirituality which is before, right? And then we went through the 10 Sfirot. We spoke about Chesed and Gvura and things like that. But today we're going to talk about something higher than worlds. What does it mean? A world is something with a limitation, something with a form, with some type of boundary, right? That's what we mean when we say a world. Today we're talking about the light. The light is what existed prior to the worlds. Another important point is when we say prior, we don't mean before in time, we mean higher. We mean higher. Like in a business, you have the boss is higher than the employee. It doesn't mean that he's physically higher. It means that he's higher in level, in standing in the company. Right? So it's very important to nothing we say is literal. Don't think of anything as literal. It's all spiritual. When we say higher, it means more spiritual, closer to its source. Right? So let's have a look on page 75, text number 2. Terem shene'etzlu hanetzalim v'nivru hanivraim. Haya or elyan pashut mamale kol hametziut v'lo haya lo b'chinat rosh v'lo b'chinat sof v'lo nikra or en sof. Before Atzilut, and before all the creations, there was just a light filling the whole reality, and it had no beginning or end. It is called Or Ein Sof, infinite light, infinity, right? So that is before all creation, right? Now, why do we refer in Kabbalah, we refer to the light, godliness as light. Well, we know it's not physical light. It's not like it lights up a room, you turn on the light. We're not talking about physical light. We're talking about spiritual light. But what does it mean? Why do we use the terminology light? So there's a few characteristics of light. Based off these, the Kabbalists chose to use or light to describe godliness, right? The first thing of light is that it is always connected to its source, right? And what does that mean? That means if I spill some water, I can walk away and the water will still be there. If I remove the source of light, the light goes away, right? You can't turn off the light and the light slowly dwindles out. It's completely connected to its source on a constant basis, right? This is like godliness, which is always in contact and always connected entirely to God, right? Number two is it doesn't think about the receiver. It doesn't consider the receiver, right? So you have some things which, like an idea, when someone's giving over an idea, so he thinks about his student. How much can he take? His age, his knowledge, and based off that, he'll go give over the idea. But light shines everywhere equally, right? So it's there's an old saying which says the sun shines the same everywhere, right? Even in the king's palace and in the rubbish dump, it's the same sunlight, right? Sun is not right. That is completely. It's completely. It considers only its source and not the receiver. Okay. Right. But it's always connected. It has to be always connected to its source. So this is a property of light, and therefore light is the when we say godliness, when we say elokut, which means the ray which kind of comes out of God Himself, we use the terminology of light.
So the light is not God Himself.
No,
the source.
No, we're not. Yeah, it's God is the source of the light. The light's the automatic type of what comes out of God from Him, just being there. If you know what I mean. Yeah. It's like you switch on a light and the light, right. So this is a key word. If you guys are writing down, I would suggest write this down. The key word is Or Ein Sof, which means light without the end. Now it doesn't say En Lo Tchila. It doesn't say it doesn't have a beginning, because we know it has a beginning. The beginning is God, right? It just doesn't have an end because it's endless. It's unlimited. It's a projection of God's essence that transcends definition, limitation, and specific attributes. If we think a bit about if you think about the example we gave in the last class from the professor, what was his name? Anyone remember? We spoke about the professor giving over to the student. It doesn't matter. Einstein. No, yeah, for the sake of Moshe. Someone giving over an idea to students which are way younger than him. Oh yeah, so it was the professor came into the school and they asked him to talk, and he said about his theories, and he said he thought to himself, yeah, these are a bunch of teenagers. What do they know? I'll just talk about how I got into it and stuff. And they said, no, give them something, So he thought, and he took a deep idea and brought it down to their level, right? So what the students are getting is based off his idea, but with
limitation.
Yeah. So the Ein Sof, the Or Ein Sof is his, for example, is his idea in his head, right? Is the greatness of the idea itself. Obviously, it's limited, but let's say in terms of God, and the idea as it's explained to the students is the Or coming down in the limitations, right? In the 10 attributes and things like that. Okay. Right. Now there's two ways that God gives light to the world, and that is called Or HaSovev and Or HaMemaleh. And this is from Zohar. You can see in text number 3. He encompasses all worlds and he fills all worlds. Right? So what do these things mean? Sovev Kol Almin encompasses all worlds is going on this Or Ein Sof. It's going on this light without limitation, right? This unlimited light. And the Memaleh Kol Almin is a lower light that he gives based off the receiver, right? And that is the light which we read about in the 10 characteristics, the 10 sfirot, the 10 attributes in Atzilut, right? So I'll get back to it. But the idea is, for example, you have 2 types of energies in your body. You have the in Kabbalah, it's explained. You have the general energy, which keeps your body alive, the life, right? That which makes a person alive. And then you have the specific energy and life of each limb. So the life that's power the whole body, that's Or HaSovev, which means encompassing light. And the light which gives to each limb specifically, right? The hand needs this, and the head needs this, and the toe needs that, and that is the Or HaMemaleh, right? Which we said is the filling light, the light which fills all worlds.
So when you say all worlds,
Yeah.
is there more than one world?
Yeah, we said Atzilut, Bria, all those, the 4 worlds that we spoke about. Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. Right? Atzilut being the most nullified, which is a good thing, meaning the most humble of worlds because it doesn't, it's closest to its source. It's just the emanation from godliness. Bria already having a sense of identity, a sense of ego. Yitzira even more, and Asiya completely, forgetting about its source completely, right? So there's the light which encompasses everything, and there's a light which is the Mamaleh, the light which is filling everything. Okay, key word, Sovev Kol Almin, encompasses all worlds. God, as he transcends the emanation of Sefirot and the creation of Bri, Yetzirah, and Asiya, right? And that is the professor with the idea before he brings it down to his students. That is the pure light, right? And then Memaleh Kol Ha'amin, we explained, is how he how he emanates the Sefirot, actively creates Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. He gives the specific energy for the specific needs of the receiver, right? I'm sure there's many examples you can think of this.
So all receivers?
You have like the general electric power of the building, right? The power box, and I'm not good at this, but someone I'm sure, the power box which gives power to the entire building, and then you have the power in each specific thing. You know, there's the power of this, there's the power of that, there's the lights, there's the AC. So that there's Sovev Kol Almin, there's the general encompassing energy, light. Light is energy. We're just using the word light in Kabbalah, as I explained. And then there's the energy which focuses on specifics, right? Or the city and each house, you know. So that's and then we're going to talk about this, but the idea is that sometimes one can be obstructed. So you can have a lot of Sovev, but not Memaleh, and the other way around. So it's important, you know, to, as we spoke about last time, Tiferet, the balance between Chesed and Gvura. Right. So now that we learned about Sovev and Memaleh, we can go back to the angels. Right. We spoke about the angels, and if you look at the texts again, we said they are called Seraphim. What does Seraphim mean? Text number 1. What does Seraphim mean in English? Burning, right? Why are they called burning, right? So the idea is because they're burning with desire. They're passionate. They're praising God. They're in heaven, and they're passionate. But now you're passionate about something when you don't have it. Correct? If you have something, you're not passionate, right? For example, very simple day-to-day example. When someone gets married, you're very passionate at the beginning, and then time goes on. You have to work harder to keep this passion alive because you get familiar. The same thing with everything. You're with everything, with home. You get passionate about things, and then you get used to them. So why are the angels so passionate if they're spiritual and if they live there, they live in heaven, right? Why are they so passionate? Text number 4. Mickey, would you like to read text number 4?
Hebrew.
Hebrew.
מלאכים עליונים בעולם הבריאה הם מתלהטים בתשוקה ורשפי אש להסתכלה בעיקרא דמלכה בבחינת סובב כל עלמין שהוא קדוש ומבודל ולכן נקראים שרפים השם הרשפי אש והתשוקה הנפלאה, וזהו שאומרים קדוש.
Yeah. So what are the seraphim? The seraphim are angels which live in Olam HaBriah, which live in the world of Briah, and they want to go higher to Atzilut. So they live in Memale, and they want to access Sovev, right? So for example, back to our example, that's why they're passionate, because they don't have everything. They know that there's a source. They know that they're angels, right? But they don't have everything. So let's go back to our example. You have, let's say, so back to the professor that taught the idea to the teenagers, to the kids, a deep idea. Now let's say one of these students realizes that there is so much more depth that he wasn't told, right? And he's a good student. What does he do? He really wants to know. Ask questions. He'll start asking questions.
Pursue the professor.
He'll research. He'll try and pursue the professor. He'll ask him, right? That's the same idea as the angels, the seraphim, wanting to access more. They have the limited version. They want the infinite. They want the unlimited version. Same idea with, let's say you have, let's say you watched a movie, right? And you saw a character, an actor play really well, right? The James Bond or whatever, I don't know. Lior Raz. You watch Fauda, and you wanna meet the guy, right? And you meet Lior Raz, and he says a few things from Fauda. Very nice, but you wanna find out more. It's not enough. He says Fauda. It goes like this, and then he leaves. Hello, man. Yeah, that's what you saw in the movie. You want to get to know him, his history, what he likes, his hobbies. That's what people which are interested in actors and celebrities and stuff. That's what they want to do. So that's the same idea. An angel seraphim, which kind of got a glimpse. They're in Beria, right? They want to access more. They want to, right?
So do we have the same desire as humans?
So as humans, we don't have this revealed passion like they do, but we actually have access to more than what they do. We're more powerful than them. Humans, we're an interesting. We got the highest high and the lowest low put together, and we're capable of the worst atrocities, but we're also capable of the holiest things. The angels can't do bad, terrible things, but the angels can't be as great as we can be. You know what I mean? And you see, we're seeing in the past month what humans are capable of, the good and the evil. And there's all these crazy stories coming out of heroic stories of people saving others, people giving up their life, people doing incredible things. But there's also terrible things coming out. So yeah, that's what the human. That's the human. That's our strength and our weakness.
But that all comes from the same light.
Yeah, and eventually, yeah, we have the highest source. But we'll get to that. All right, we're talking about the angels now. Right, they want to access God Himself. What they have is not enough. That's why they are hungry. They're thirsty. They're passionate. Right. Text number 5. השרפים אומרים קדוש, משיגים איכשהו יתברך קדוש ומובדל, לכן יש בהם 6 כנפיים לפי שהם בכנס העולם מלמטה למעלה. So this is why they have wings, right? Why do angels have wings? Everyone always draws cartoons and stuff. You have angels with wings. So it has its source in the prophecies. Jeremiah, in what's his name, Yeshayahu. And the reason why angels have wings is because wings make you go up, and they're constantly trying to go up, constantly trying to elevate themselves. And that's why also when we pray, when we say Kadosh, what do? Like this, Kadosh, Kadosh. You ever seen that in the synagogue? Because it's resembling the Aliyah the ascending of the angels, trying to.
I think it's to do with the muscles, just to after you
Too
So
much.
why do you got 6 wings?
Six. That's a good question. Six. I'm sure there's a
6 days of creation.
maybe 6 days of creation. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll
If they had 5,
if I remember.
one five.
One unstable.
yeah, 3 on each side, you know.
No, it's probably symbolized something.
Of course, you know, maybe I don't know.
Okay.
I'll if I remember, I'll check it. I'll look
Check
into
it
it.
out.
Yeah, you can do that. Right. So now we spoke about the angels a bit, and now we can talk about how we access our godliness. Right. So we talk about the angels. How do we approach all this?
So 1 second, Robert. Do we
Yeah.
pray to angels to help us?
No, God forbid.
So do we don't have any connection with them?
No.
So where they're located between us.
Yeah. We speak about them in order to trigger a similar reaction inside of us. So we speak about them during praying, but we, God forbid, don't pray to them or to anything else. That's the foundation of Judaism. Yeah. So when someone, for example, wants to, meditate or think about God, right? So what do we do in general? We look around us. We see nice things, right? You see incredible things. You see, this is, you see a beautiful wonder of nature, or you see a miracle, or you see a baby being born, or you see, you study something, and you look around and you see how everything works perfectly, and how, all the trillion cells in a person's body are working in harmony, and if one cell goes wrong, then the person can die, and as we say in Asher Yatzar. So that's how we access our godliness. It's we start bottom and we go up. We start from the bottom, we look around us, or we look inside ourselves, and then we say, okay, so there's a creator. This creator is so kind. Look how incredible he is. Look what he did, right? This is Mimale Kolam, right? This is what we mean when we say Mimale Kolam. That means the light, the godliness which is involved in the creation. Okay, so there's 2 aspects. Remember, there's 2 aspects. Mimale Kolam means is the beauty around us. You search for meaning. You look at your life, you look at yourself, you look at, obviously it's very easy to ignore these things, just as it's easy to notice these things. A person can choose and can say about anything which happens, it's nature, right? Or you can say, okay, nature, or what's nature? Where nature is just nature because it happens a lot. That's why we call it nature, but doesn't it make it less incredible? A miracle that happens constantly, we call nature. Baby is born, that's an incredible miracle. If you think about it, if you look at where it comes from, and the growth and what it can accomplish afterwards, but it just happens the whole time. So we say nature. But with a bit of thought and a bit of mindfulness, you can come to like a feeling towards God by sitting down and by paying attention to these things, right? And this is Mamale Kolam. And that is, as you see on the bottom, we use our 10 characteristics, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut, the 10 attributes of our soul, and we access, and we think about God and we relate to God. And then higher up, we have the Sovev Kolam, right? And that we said is how God relates to, God doesn't relate to the world, right? Obviously, us trying to relate to God, Sovev Kolam, Sovev God, is very difficult, right? We're very busy with our day-to-day lives, so if anything, we're going to be relating to God how He relates to us. He gives us things, right? We can't relate to an abstract God. For that, you need a lot of time. It needs to be, you need to be a full-time meditator. I don't know. You need to be a scholar. But when we pray, we talk about the angels to give us a bit of a glimpse into Sovev Kolam, into the Sovev. Obviously, there's one God, but we're talking about different aspects, different relationships that He has to us and we have to Him. Right? So, Memale Kolam, in the lower one, is the aspect that we can recognize on a day-to-day basis. Sovev Kolam takes a bit of meditation, takes a bit of work. The abstract God.
So what does it look like? If you met it, if you saw it, how would you know it's that? You don't.
No, it's all. You can't. There's no. It's energy. It's.
Something you feel? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, you could feel it. Could feel it if you work on that. It's not a physical. Obviously, it doesn't look like something physical, right? We're not talking about what our eyes can see is not. It's not everything, It's not that. This is something which it can't be seen.
If you connected with that, are you still here?
Yeah, you can connect to it. We're saying during prayers, we speak about the seraphim, the angels, so that we get a bit of a trigger to relate to Sovev. Because most of the prayers, what we talk about? We talk about, God, you're so great for doing this and this and this, and you make everything run, you create the seasons, the sun doesn't stop, the moon doesn't stop, the stars don't stop, and all the creations and everything. And then all of a sudden, right before Shema Yisrael, we talk about angels, right? And the idea is to take us, to allow us to go a little bit higher, right? To Sovev and to relate and to relate to that a bit, right? Now, this is obviously it's not something which goes on the whole time. We don't have this every day and the whole day, but it's something which sometimes it's like a relationship with two people. You don't want to just have the relationship how you benefit from them, right? You want to understand them. You want to grasp them entirely. Right? For example, a husband and wife. So there's the benefits that the husband can receive from the wife, and the wife will see. Well, that's not what marriage is about. Marriage is about the connecting of the entire being. The souls coming together, which we're going to talk about also. Okay. Now, if you look in your student book on page 80, you'll see something about the 13 attributes of mercy, which is the Yud Gimel Midot HaRachamim. We're not going to talk about that now, but here he talks about how they also correspond to this Sovev, Ora Sovev. Now let's talk about something else, right? This is okay. We spoke about Seraphim. Seeing God as a creator should be a bridge to appreciate Him for who He is. Okay, now there's a famous verse that everyone knows, and that is Oseh Shalom Bimromav. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al Kol Yisrael. Bimru, Amen. Okay, so Oseh Shalom Bimromav means He who makes peace in the heavens. Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. He should make peace among us. Right? This is a prayer that most Jews, I think, know, and it's prayer for peace.
We need to change it. It doesn't work. We tried.
Yeah, peace doesn't work.
The prayer doesn't work.
That's because the angels.
Yeah. No, it's praying is not enough. You gotta take some action as well. So the question is, what is the second part? I understand, make peace. But what is the first part? Peace in the heavens. What does this mean? Peace in the heavens, is there fight? Is there war in the heavens? So, what do we mean when we say this? So if you guys remember, this is our map, the Kabbalah map. You have the 10 attributes, but there are 22 different connections between each of the 10 sfirot. Okay, let's go back a second. And they link, basically, if you have a look, Keter, we didn't speak about Keter, so I'm not going to talk about Keter. You have Chachma, Bina, Tadat, and then Chesed goes to Gvora, and they both go to Tiferet, right? That goes to both of them. Netzachot, something like that, and then Yisod just goes down to Malchut. The idea is that there's 22 connections. 22 is the number of the Aleph Bet, the number of the Hebrew alphabet. And the idea, this is an idea called Hitkalalut. Hitkalalut, how do you translate Hitkalalut? Inclusion. Inclusion. Right, so the first original inclusion comes from Kabbalah, and that we spoke about that briefly last week. We spoke about a balance in different emotions that people have. So you have chesed, kindness, but too much kindness is not good. We gave an example: if a child wants a knife and he's crying, the parent, with just chesed, with just kindness, would just give, just give him the knife. But that's why you have, that's both of us.
You watching her.
The candy, that's what I would do.
Candy. But then Gevura is just restraint, just the opposite. So just one, not the other, is not good. Then you have Tiferet, which means harmony, beauty, and the Tiferet is what encompasses both. When a person can manage his kindness and his restraint together, and that is by giving in a generous way, but only constructively to people, which it can help. An example, you give people. A lot of people ask for money. People on the streets or whatever it is, and obviously the direct reaction is always, yeah, of course, you want to give because you feel like you're doing something good, you're helping them. Sometimes you're not helping them. You have to look at the situation. What's he going to do with this money? So Gevura is going to say no to everyone. Chesed is going to say yes to everyone, and Tiferes is the balance when you say, okay, what are you going to do with this money? You're going to go buy some alcohol. You're going to go self-destruct. Let's work on something. Let's get somewhere. Let's find you a job. But anyhow, that's Tiferes. So that's a balance, a inclusion of Chesed and Gevura. And all of the 10 Sfirot, all of the 10 attributes in the heaven and in us, right? As we said, they're a mirror. It's all about inclusion. It's all about balance. Okay? And that's Hitkalalut. That's what Hitkalalut means. And there's 22 links between each one. 3 lines. It goes like this, and like this. And they're interconnected that way as well. Right? And it's important. It's not random. Right? Because Chesed has its way of giving to Netzach, which is directly under it. Right? But it also has its way, obviously, as we know, interact with Gevura. And the next class, we're going to talk about something called Tohu, which means chaos. And that is when there is no balance, there's no inclusivity, Hitkalalut, and things just shatter. That's for the next class. But here we're already talking about after that happened, we're already in order, tikkun, which means a wonderful situation where things can work together, right? So this is what it means. Oseh shalom bimromav, making peace in the heavens, means peace between the opposite faculties and attributes, emotions, right? Peace between chesed and gevura. And so,
present.
Huh?
In the present, right now.
Yeah.
Especially.
Yeah, oseh, because it's
but he will do shalom.
we want him to. We it's a
Are we
prayer.
talking about God or are we talking about Who's gonna do the shalom?
Down here?
No, up there.
God makes shalom. So we're saying, we don't say God, we say, he who makes peace in the heavens should make peace also here.
So we're talking about there, then it's gonna come back.
Yeah, well, we want him to also do the same thing.
רש"י אומר, אם אין שלום אין כלום.
Yeah.
פרשת קודש.
Right? Okay. Okay, this is an important word. This word is hitkalalut. You can write this down. Incorporation. Very good. The intermingling and the harmonization of the godly Sefirot. Now, obviously, this is important because a person which is can't tolerate another emotion, something opposite than his character, he's bound to not get very far in life, right? Tolerance, inclusivity, all these things comes from the heavens, comes from Tzilut, comes from God being able to make everything balance out. And this is what he needed to create the world, right? The world runs off balance. So we're saying all this was all a lead up to create our physical world. This is all part of the Seder Hishtalshalut, which was an important idea, the chain of creation until we got to this physical world. In order for that to happen, there has to be this inclusivity. Okay, now in text number 7 on page 83, there is an example of this, of two ministers which have different opinions, right? One is thinks that we shouldn't accept immigrants, or one says we should accept immigrants, or one says we should have a ceasefire, and the other says we shouldn't have a ceasefire, or one says we should be spending money on military, and the other says no, we should spend money in education, whatever. Now these two ministers are always going head to head. They're always arguing. They're always fighting it out. Then they get summoned in front of the king. We're talking about a king in the olden days, a real king, which could, kill someone like this. They come in front of the king, and all of a sudden, their differences go away, right? Because in front of the king, no one's going to.
With the modesty.
Yeah, there's more modesty, tolerance. They dwindle. Their differences seem smaller all of a sudden. Right? Because they're both in the presence of greatness. They're both fearful of the king. And this is the same idea of chesed and gevurah, two opposites, being able to work together, being able to, in the presence of the Ein Sof, which means the infinite light. So in the presence of the infinite light, there is no difference already between chesed and gevurah. And this allows them to interact and to work together and to tolerate each other, most importantly, right? Now, they both have their own identity, of course. Each one embraces their own identity. Chesed is chesed, it's kindness, it has characteristics, right? As we said, there are many things which come from chesed. Sweetness and, milk. We went through a bunch of things. Meat is from gevurah, and bitterness is from gevurah, and light and darkness, and anyone else remember anything that we spoke about? We gave a bit of a list of things. Yeah, so that's the idea. So this is funny because Or Ein Sof, we said, is higher and removed from the attributes, the 10 Sefirot, and that is what enables them to. At the same time, it enables them to come together. It's like two kids fighting, and then as soon as if they're scared of their parent comes in, and all of a sudden everything's okay. They forget about what they were fighting about because he's about to give them a frask, send them. Okay. Right. Okay, now, this is why, if you have a look right above Tiferet in the map, there is Keter. A Keter is a crown, right? Because Keter sits above the head, it is the level which transcends the Sfirot, right? And that is the level which causes the harmony between each Sfirot. Okay? So in each world, by the way, in each of the 4 worlds, you have these 10 Sfirot, but in each of these worlds, you'll have Keter, which the Keter, the crown, allows all of them to come together. In the presence of the crown, they're not going to
mess around.
Yeah, they're not going to mess around. Okay? So, key word key term is Keter, godliness that transcends the Sfirot and that enables their harmonization. Right? Okay. Summary for what we said so far is that each of the Sfirot on its own leaves no space for a different Sphira, for a different attribute. God is required to make peace between them by exposing the Ein Sof, the infinity of God, which transcends any differences and allows them to work together. Right? And the link to the Ein Sof is through Keter, through the crown. Okay, now let's look a bit down lower, right? Let's look how this plays out in our lives. Okay, marriage, a wedding, a Jewish wedding. There's a few levels to this, right? There is the physical bond between the husband and the wife, right? And there's the soul bond, the souls coming together. Now, how can 2 souls merge into one, into soulmates? You know, you ever heard the term "my soulmate"?
So Keter.
Very good. You're
really?
jumping ahead. We know that 2 people can live together and tolerate each other, but marriage is not about tolerating the other person, right? Because marriage is about uniting, right? Real harmony. The souls coming together. You can tolerate anyone, you know. I mean, not anyone, but you can tolerate a lot of people.
Tolerate doesn't seem like a positive thing either.
Exactly.
You're not growing together and enjoying.
You want to
the journey,
tolerate.
You're just putting kind of
Exactly. You babysit. Yeah. You have to celebrate, not tolerate. You have to be in harmony entirely.
Unless it's your tikkun.
No.
It's a different topic.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. We're not saying things are easy. You know, there's challenges, there's things you have to work on. There's psharot. There's how do you say psharot in English? Compromises. Very good. Compromises. But in general, marriage is the unity between 2 souls, right? Now, how is that possible? We spoke about, remember in the last class, each soul having its own source in the 10 attributes, right? So there's some people which are more from Chesed, some people are from Gvura, and we did a bit of an exercise to understand where you come from. And also, so there's that, and then there's the aspect that in male and female are very different in Kabbalah, right? There's the male souls and the female souls. So we don't have to get into it too much now, but how are 2, a male and a female, able to come together and to bond like that, right? Okay, have a look on text number 8, page 85. Or would you like to read in Hebrew? I'll just start with a joke. There was a guy which came to a doctor with his wife, and he said, my wife Sarah, she can't hear. She's either deaf or she's pretending or she's ignoring me. So the doctor said, okay, here, let's try an exercise. You go home and then you tell her something, and then you move closer and say it again, and move closer and say it again, and move closer until she answers you. And then come back to me and tell me what happened. So he said, great. came back to the doctor the next week, and the doctor said, "What happened?" He said, "I walked into the kitchen. My wife was washing the dishes, and I said, 'Sarah, I love you.' No answer. I took a few steps closer. 'Sarah, I love you.' No answer. A bit closer. 'Sarah, I love you.' No answer. The fifth time. 'Sarah, I love you.' No answer. The sixth time. 'Sarah, I love you.' All of a sudden, she turns around and she says, 'For the sixth time already, I love you too.'" Yeah. So there's tolerating, and then there's you know. But anyhow, text number 8.
בעניין חתן וכלה שהמה בית ההפכים מן הקצה, כנזכר לעיל, הנה כדי שיתאחדו ויתכללו יחד, צריך להיות גם כן על ידי בחינת האור שמאיר עליהם, ממקום ומדרגה היותר גבוהה גם
You can read it in
משניהם,
English meanwhile. Yeah.
עד ששם משתווים יחד כמבואר למעלה. והיינו עניין החופה, מה שמביאים החתן והכלה תחת החופה, שחופפת על שניהם יחד, ועומדת בגובה ורום על החתן והכלה וכו'. והעניין הוא כי חופה זאת הוא בחינת אור מקיף, הבא מבחינת מקיפים העליונים, מבחינת סובב כל עלמין.
Yeah. So the idea is, in order for the two souls to fusion, to come together, it's by them recognizing something higher than them both, right? Which corresponds to Ora Sovev. That's why when you get married, you have a chuppah. A chuppah is a canopy above. And that the message over here is, in order for this to work, there has to be, so you have to be looking and seeing that there's the Ora Sovev, which is higher than both, right? Which is higher than the differences, and in the presence of that, the differences fall aside. And then also there's a lot of things you can see in your book on page 86, the next page, you'll see different things which represent those things, Ora Sovev in the chuppah. A ring is round, that represents Sovev, and so on and so forth, right? Now, another aspect is that in the marriage, you can see infinity, right? In the marriage of two people, right? The idea is like this: when you create something physical, and you leave that thing, the thing goes away, right? But when someone gets married, you can see infinity in different ways. One of the ways is children. The children, which in turn give birth to children, which in turn give birth to children, and so on and so forth, which can last forever, right? Obviously, it does last. We come from, so that is an aspect of Ein Sof, an aspect of infinite light in the marriage, right? Right. And therefore, the marriage is never really over, right? Once someone gives birth, once someone has a child, the marriage goes on and on and on and on for generations. When you create something and the thing goes, then it's finished, right? When it has a flute, when a flute stops working, the flute is useless, but not the
child.
Not
When
the
you
child.
say the child, I thought infinite work. The child.
Yeah. Yeah, that too. Infinite strength the parent has to,
That's what it says, when kids grow, the problems grow. When I say anything about my kids, like, don't worry, when they grow, the problems grow.
That's just the beginning.
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
more.
So the idea is to realize the differences between each partner, not to deny the differences, but to realize that you can live in a reality which transcends these differences. Don't let these differences get in the way. Don't let them define you and your relationship, because you can access something way higher. You can access Or HaSovev, right? The encompassing light. And that's the idea. embrace your personal differences, allow your conscious mind to sense that what your soul already senses, and that is infinity. Right? Tap into your soul, which already knows about the infinite, and also, and this is what it means.
So in marriage, it should be the same setup of chesed and gvura and tiferet.
Balance, yeah, of course.
It can't be a complete doormat. You get
No.
it? No.
So are we part of the light? Because we are infinity.
We resemble it. I mean, we come from it. We're limited. Right? We're very limited. But
We're limited by years, but then if we have kids and kids.
Yeah. So we have the power of the light.
Yeah.
We come from it, right? It's injected into us, and we're able to, use that. But that's only with these things, right? Not with everything. We can't make unlimited things. We can't do anything else unlimited. It's only in this. Okay. A short summary, and that is a husband and wife soul are rooted in different sphirot. They're able to become together and become soulmates by sensing the infinity. And we can allow this harmony into our marriages, or our partnerships, or our relationships. Now we will watch a short film.
Welcome to the third episode of the World of Kabbalah, our journey through the mystical realms of the Kabbalistic system. In previous episodes, we discussed various worlds of independence, and the divine world of the Sefirot. The common denominator is that all worlds are finite zones. But Kabbalah also discusses a reality that transcends limitation, God's infinite light, or Ein Sof. Here's the catch. Yes, the infinite light transcends the Sefirot, but it's also crucial to their functioning. Let's look at three of the Sefirot. Chesed is the impulse to share generously, whereas Gevura is restraint and discipline. We know from our own lives that healthy living means balancing the two, which is the role of Tiferet, a compromising blend of Chesed and Gevura. Kabbalah discusses other Sefirot blends as well. Sefirot diagrams typically show 22 inter-Sefirot channels representing unique Sefirot blends. That process is called Hitkalalut. But this synthesis should not be taken for granted. After all, each Sephira is unidimensional. Imagine if you personified Chesed. It was the only ingredient in your DNA. Would you tolerate an opposing impulse? No. So we can easily imagine a scenario in which each Sephira has blind patriotism for its own configuration and definition, where it would be impossible for the Sephirot to collaborate. But that didn't happen. And here's a parable to explain why. Imagine a monarch who has two ministers engaged in endless arguments. The defense minister demands a formidable army, while the finance minister desires a stable economy. When summoned before the king to present a viable solution to challenges facing their nation, their reverence for the throne diminishes their rivalry, and they collaborate harmoniously. They are now able to devise a plan that strikes a delicate balance, ensuring the stability of both the treasury and the military. In a similar way, because the Sefirot sense, or Ein Sof, how God transcends the entire concept of limitation, they shed the rigidity of their characters. They are empowered to overlook their identities to collaborate with the other Sefirot. Now, you might wonder, how does all this relate to us? Well, this concept is one of Kabbalah's keys for marital harmony. Marriage has two dimensions: the unity of bodies, the tangible relationship between husband and wife, and the unity of soul, They're invisible but powerful soul bonds. But considering that each soul is rooted in a different sphera, how do two souls unite as one? The answer is based on the collaboration of sphirot. Soul fusion works when each soul, like its root sephira, senses God's transcendence of all particular characteristics. This awareness empowers a soul to transcend its individuality and to merge with another soul. That happens as bride and groom stand side by side under the chuppah. So, to enhance a marital harmony, remind yourself, my soul was unable to unite with my spouse's soul until it sensed divine infinity. Why don't I allow that process to continue in my conscious life as well? I can embrace my own personality and views, and also try to sense what my soul already experienced, that God transcends all personalities and views. This embrace of God's transcendence empowers me to be open to additional perspectives, which will advance my collaboration, connection, and cohesion with my soulmate.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. We're not finished yet. We've still got some more. We spoke about, in the last class, we spoke about the kochot hanefesh, the powers of the soul, 10 powers of the soul. In the class before that, we spoke about the levushei hanefesh, which means the garments of the soul. Just like a garment, you can change constantly. So too, you can change your behavior constantly, right? This is the levushei hanefesh, the garments, machshava, dibur, and maaseh, thought, speech, and action. Now the soul itself, right? Obviously, for a lot of people, right, there is nothing higher to the person than the person's intellect. Person's seichel, the person's understanding, the person's brains, is the highest part of a person. But the truth is, the person has a soul, right? The soul itself, which is higher than any behavior and even any emotion that the person has. The soul itself, on page 88, text number 9, is a simple and undefined light that transcends the division of intellect and emotions, right? Right, so now there's not much we can say about that because that's just, we say it's transcendent, it's just a light, pure. But now, how do we actually, is there any way we can see this in action? And the truth is yes, ratzon. The language of the soul is ratzon, which means willpower, right? Now, ratzon is the same word as tzinor. Ratzon and tzinor, it's the same letters, just split around. Ratzon is willpower, tzinor is a pipe, right? A pipeline. And the idea is just like a pipeline is pulling something from point A to point B, guiding something, so to ratzon, the willpower, is the soul being pulled to something, right? So higher than intellect, and of course higher than emotions, and of course higher than behaviors, is the willpower of the person. And that is the language of the soul. That is the soul, right? You have two types of souls. Have a look in text number 11, right? Tam, would you like to read text number 11? Yeah.
One type of human desire is referred to as a born desire because it is brought into being at a particular time. It is also referred to as the lower desire because its position is beneath that of the intellect. Such a desire takes shape only after we strongly contemplate a particular matter. Without this, we will not experience any desire toward that matter. By contrast, when we think deeply about it, whether it is a specific food, an item of clothing, a financial issue, a lucrative business deal, etc., then a desire for that thing is born within us. This type of desire is also called amida, which means measured or limited. For a desire born from intellectual knowledge and contemplation is a measured desire, limited to the specific rationalization that created it. Consequently, when the logical basis for this desire ceases or becomes irrelevant, the desire toward that matter will similarly disappear. There is, however, a second type of desire referred to as the higher desire. This desire is limitless. It is a simple desire that transcends intellect and is not born from it. Instead, it is a natural desire that relates to our very selves. For example, a father's love for the offspring that are an extension of his essence, and a mother's compassion for the child that she bore. These are natural desires that entirely transcend intellect and reason.
Right. Okay, so there is the innate desire, which we spoke about, and those are things which inherently a person wants, right? The desire, as you mentioned, of a parent to the offspring. In Kabbalah, it talks about person to have a home. Person has an instinct. He has a desire to have a home, even if you can't explain it. It's just this desire, right? To have somewhere to go back to at the end of the day. So you can travel. By the way, if you travel and don't live anywhere, traveling is not enjoyable because they got nowhere to return to. You know what I mean? Holiday is only enjoyable if you have a home. You know, that's the innate desire, right? That's the highest, the desire, which obviously has nothing to do with intellect, it's nothing to do with understanding, right? And it also shapes the intellect. Because of that desire, based off that desire, you'll start thinking of ways to get a home. You know, you'll start saving, you'll start planning, and so on and so forth. It's constant, and it's infinity-like, right? It's not. It's a desire which you can't you satisfied it and it's quiet. It's a desire which goes constantly, and that is Ratzon Ha'elyon. Okay, that is called Ratzon Ha'elyon, which means the higher desire. And then there's the lower desire, which is the desire which one can have. It's called a midah, you mentioned. It's limited and it's based off a certain understanding, right? It comes after the intellect. For example, a desire to dress a certain way because it's cold outside, right? Or a desire to have a barbecue in your back garden because you saw your friend with one and it just looks good. You know, you have all the ideas how you can use it and stuff. So it makes it desirable for you, but it's not a constant desire. It's not an infinite desire. It's a desire which comes after your understanding. But the inherent desires, you can't, explain. You can explain them. You know, you ask someone, why do you love your child? So like, how's he going to explain that? Because he's my child. Very good. Explain that. Write it down for me. A 1,000-word essay. Why do you love your child? You know, go ahead. It's because that's your person has an instinct, has a desire to live, right? Person will do anything he can to stay alive. Why? Because that's the nature of a person. You know, that's the person's born with that tendency. Yeah. Okay, you have an interesting story here in text number 12, which brings across this point. By the way, the second Ratzon, which is the Ratzon HaTachton, the lower Ratzon, is connected to the higher Ratzon. So it's not its own, it's not playing its own game, right? It's connected, and it's also willpower, right? It's got certain strength to it. So here you have a story in the Talmud which demonstrates this. I'll say the gist of the story. There were two rabbis, Shimon and Levi, were studying together, and one of them said to the other, "Let's study something," and then the other one said, "No, let's study something else, Psalms, right?" And they brought Psalms, and they read the first verse, which says, "Ashrei Ki im b'torat Hashem chefzo, which means praises the person, and then his desire is in God's Torah. And Rabbi Yehuda said that you can only study well if you desire to study what you're studying, right? And when he said that, the other guy said, okay, I'm going, because I don't want to study this. You gave me permission to leave, right? The idea is that when someone desires, has a passion in what they're studying, they understand it way better than someone who doesn't. So if you have two students, and one can even be smarter, higher IQ than the other, but he's not passionate about this subject, and the other one is, even though he's got a lower IQ, the one with the lower IQ might be able to understand it better and quicker and more thorough because of his ratzon, because of his passion, because his desire over it, right? And then you have, that's why the law is, in the Torah it says that you should study what you enjoy. L'olam, you know how it finishes? Le'imad olam b'makom she'libo chafetz. Which means
Don't force yourself to something that you're not going to put your desires.
exactly, find what you're good at, find what you enjoy, find what you're passionate about, and pursue that.
But normally we do as life, we're passionate about one thing, but we change our through life, we change it, the desire, no?
Yeah, I mean,
that's life.
Yeah, I mean, at that moment, what you're passionate about. Obviously, people are passionate about some things, and then they have to get a job, and they have to make money, and they have to do something else. You know, you can study medicine because you're passionate about it, but then you end up working as a reporter because it's what the job you got, and that's it.
So you lost your desire.
Yeah, but at least in some things, you should try and find the So in Torah, in study, that's what we're saying. That if you want it to actually be effective, if you want it to be able to work, you have to find your. Some people are good at. Some people are good at studying law. That's right. That's wrong. This is kosher. This is not. This is. And some people are better at studying. They enjoy more the kabbalah, the esoteric parts of the Torah. Some people like the stories, the history. So everyone should find their thing and they should study it. And the reason why it's like that is because the will has power over the sechel, over the intellect. Ratzon is higher than intellect. So therefore, the ratzon can guide the intellect and empower it if you're passionate about this thing. Okay.
If you have two ratzons working against each other, who's gonna win?
Two ratzons? How could that happen?
Doesn't your higher desire shake?
In your
no, not in you. You have a will.
And
I have a will.
Yeah.
But it's clashing. Who's gonna win?
That's why you need
Keter,
you need keter. You need the third guy to come in and hopefully you can access that on your own. You don't need the third person. That's the should be able to come to pshara with balance, Okay. So Ratzon Elyon is the desire derives the logic. Ratzon Tachton is logic derives the desire. Okay, but they are interconnected. Now, a key word, guys, Ratzon HaNefesh is the soul's desire, a desire flowing from the soul's nature. Desire, and that's number one. And then the second one is a desire generated by contemplation. Okay, most things that we do, it's very hard to explain. Okay, we do it because we have a desire for them. But desire is desire. Why did you put on those shoes today, not the other ones? Why did you put on that color? Because you wanted to. Lech tasbir, you can't explain everything. You try and explain it to yourself, so you don't feel unpredictable. You want to feel sane. So you explain things, they make sense. But a lot of things you do are just ratzon. Your nefesh was pulled to that today. And tomorrow, your soul is pulled to something else. right?
So you
Okay.
should follow your soul. Whatever your soul says, you should follow.
That's dangerous.
Trying to understand. Just, you're poor.
Your seichel, no, you should follow your
You have to
seichel.
use your brain.
Use your brain.
Follow your
You gotta, yeah.
Sometimes you get desire, but you need to use your brain.
So I'm saying, so if your brain desires bacon, you look at it, whoa, it looks really good. So that's your
brain
soul.
doesn't-
That's your soul.
Your
sorry,
soul, yeah, your ratzon.
And then you
Your brain says no bacon,
Yeah.
Connie bacon, and you back out. You
back
got
out.
control, yeah. Your mind over the heart. That's what the
שמת לי סתם אצלנו.
yeah, exactly. All right. There's a story, which is an interesting one about on text 14, page number 95, which shows us this idea, and that is as follows: there was a chassid named Rabbi Yekutiel. He worked as a salt merchant who was well known, but he wasn't very clever. Right? He couldn't understand things. He was very pious, but his brains, he wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. Once a teacher came to his town, and each day he reviewed another discourse, right, another piece of Hasidic teachings from his Rebbe, but he found that he couldn't understand these things, and this bothered him, and he was heartbroken, and he wept, and he said some psalms, but nothing helped, until he went to his Rebbe, Rabbi Dovber of Lubavitch, which is Rabbi Dovber is the third. Rabbi Dovber is the third Chabad Rebbe. The second Chabad Rebbe. He went to him, and he explained what his experiences. And the Rebbe said, "Ein davar ha'omed lifnei ratzon," which means nothing stands in the way of desire. Right? The mind and the emotions are beneath your desire, and they are subject to your desire. Right? If you really want something, you can expand your abilities. You'll get it. That's what the Rebbe told him. Okay. Now, when he heard this, he stayed behind in this town of Lubavitch, right, which is the original town in Russia of Chabad, and he told his family, "I'm going to be here for a bit." And for 4 months, he worked with tremendous effort, physically and mentally, and he would toil over different topics for many hours, and when Rosh Hashanah came, he really felt like a new person. He really could understand things. And the Rebbe said, the next Rebbe said, that he is a living example of Yagaiti umatzati ta'amid, which means if you try, if you labor, you will succeed. A lot of times in life, someone says, "I can't." Yeah. First of all, kids always say, "I can't." Your kids, clean off your plate from the supper table. "I can't." Or we tell ourselves, "I can't." But the truth is, we can.
There's a will, there's a way.
There's a will, there's a way. There's no such thing as you can't. We're not saying it's easy, right? It's not easy just to get up and do something which you can't do. But it's doable, if there's a ratzon, there is a way. Now, if a kid says "I can't," so there's different ways that people react. One way is you're still good, even if you don't. Do something, and the kid says, "I can't do well in school." So one parent says, "Okay, you're still good. Don't worry about it. Even if you don't, I still, Another response is, "Okay, so do something else. Get good at something else. We'll take you out of school and come play football or, soccer." The third response is the parent says, "You can." Right? That's the third response. Yeah, exactly. There's no such thing as "I can't."
What you desire in life.
Yeah. Now there's a similar story, which in text number 15, the Baal Shem Tov, also a great leader, Hasidic leader, was sitting in the synagogue with his students, and all of a sudden there was no cars. Someone drove past with a wagon, and the wagon got stuck in the mud, right? It would happen a lot. And he came to the window and he asked the students, "Come help me pull the wagon out of the mud." And the student said, "We can't," right? And the wagon driver said the words in Russian, "Możesz, da nie chcesz," which means you can, but you don't want to. And our Rebbe, right, the seventh Rebbe, told over the story of a simple wagon driver. It wasn't some rabbi or anything. And he told over the story as a lesson, you know. Don't say you can't. Możesz, da nie chcesz. It means you can. Możesz, da, you can, but you don't want to. Nie chcesz. You know Russian, right? There you go.
Не хочу.
Не хочу. You don't want to. Okay, and he the Baal Shem Tov explained to his students that this is a real lesson, you know, service of God, that, you know, ein davar omed lifnei haratzon. Let's review a few things. The first lesson we said, I can't get this screen away. We control alavushim, which means we control our behaviors, our garments. That's what we said in the first lesson. Right? We said that you can utilize the second lesson, strong points, what you're good at, to serve God. We said if you're more of a chesed type of person, use that, right, to act, to serve God, to spread good, to live your life, right? That was in the second lesson. We said each person has their source, their one of the 10. And then this lesson we explained that this can be reached through desire. Okay, so that we said in the past two lessons about behaving the right way through thought, speech, and action, right? And utilizing your points, your strengths, that can be done through ratzon, through desire. Okay?
What controls desire?
So now, very good. How do you get desire in something? How do we go about this?
How do you get the right desire?
Yeah.
I'm confused about, like, because if the soul is the closest part to the source, why do we sometimes desire things that aren't?
But your desire can be different desire to somebody else.
If I desire to
Jump
I
from
don't
the
know,
sky.
to go and steal your car tonight,
Yeah.
the energy is going to come from the same source. And
Yeah.
The desire.
Well, what we're saying is that the soul itself is the higher level of desire. And that desire, you can't want something bad, right? Well, the lower level of desire, Ratzon Tachton, we said is the lower desire, that is higher than intellect, but you can have desires to not the right
So
thing.
your
Doesn't
soul
that
is
come
always
from ego
good.
though? Doesn't that come from like human ego?
Selfish
Because
ego,
it's
yeah.
driven by self-serving desire.
Yeah.
So like people who are addicted to things, their desire is just for that thing without any it's like a worldly
Yeah.
yeah.
So any
Like
bad
anything
desire,
over-
it comes from a different source. So if it's
No, it doesn't come from different source, but it comes from like a worldly not source, but-
Materialistic,
yeah, like a,
but still your
But
soul.
how we go into the higher one? I want to be the purest. How do we go?
That
let
you
those
need to go
little-
to the Buddha lesson. Not
No, but you understand
Yeah.
like, how we get to the point that avoiding the little ones.
Yeah.
desire is bad.
How do we get to there just to be?
That's very difficult because that is your soul constantly expressing itself.
Okay.
That's tzaddik. That's what a righteous, that what we can do is through our work,
Yep.
want the right thing, in line the lower ratzon with the higher ratzon. We can try and bring them to closer, bring them together. You know what I mean? And
So if you desire something bad, it's not coming from your soul, it's coming from a different place.
eventually it comes from your soul, but not directly. That means it's in contact. It comes from the higher ratzon. The lower ratzon comes from the higher ratzon, but
They're not in alignment together.
it comes after your sechel, your intellect, and your
So we're all
they're not in
the
alignment.
same. We're all weak at the end of the day.
Yeah, of course. But our soul, so when you access your soul, you realize how much strength you have. You know what I mean? Your ratzon,
So a constant
Yeah.
fight.
yeah.
Can't you only aspire though to the higher, because we're like mere mortals, so we don't have the like capacity. We can strive for it and aspire to it and work towards it, but ultimately it's
Yeah, I
this
mean,
world not
that we
something
use
that
our tools, we use the tools that we're given to make the right choices with the lower ratzon, right? With the lower will, because we know what's right. You know, you have a bit of a thought, you study a bit, you look around, and you can more or less, in most situations, you should know what the right thing is to do and what's not right. And if you don't know, you ask someone.
But what you're saying is there's good and bad in everyone. So what are you saying? We all have bad in us, and then we all have good.
Yeah, I mean, we have bad, but what I'm saying now is that the point is to try and align our lower ratzon with our higher ratzon. That's our.
That's the
So
challenge.
you can make a choice. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can.
we have free choice.
Yeah,
Even though the whole
Free
human
choice.
experience is you have choice.
exactly.
You choose.
So now we're saying how do you do this, right? So for this, we're going to introduce 3 more of the 10 attributes. We spoke about Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet. We said the last 7 are emotions, and the first 3 are intellects. These are the 10 characteristics that every person's soul has. Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet. So Chesed is wisdom, but if you look deeper, let's not Chesed, Chochmah. Chochmah is the highest level of intellect, and that is wisdom, but you can split it into 2 words. Koach ma. Koach is potential. Ma is what? Right? And that is you're bringing the seed to fruition, which means when you understand an idea, the first moment, the lightning bolt, right? When the idea first hits you, you go, you're thinking about something a long time, you go, that aha moment, that is chachma. That is the level of chachma. You don't understand the whole picture yet. You haven't really looked into all the details, you haven't gone through it, you don't know, you can't explain it yet. But it hit you for a second, yeah? That's chachma. And then you have bina. Bina is comprehension, and that is when you take this idea and you develop it, you think about it, yeah. A seed coming to fruition. You spread it. You say, okay, like for example, yeah. Let's just give a small example. Chachma would be you're thinking where to do an event, where to hold a wedding, and you're thinking and you're thinking and you can't find the venue, you can't find it, and then all of a sudden an idea comes to you, like an out of the box idea. Let's do it, I don't know, on the mountain, no one's ever done that before. Wow, okay, that's amazing. That's chokhmah, right? And then bina is you start asking, okay, well, how, when, where, like, how much is it going to cost, all the details of, not even all the details, but like, the details involved, all the intellectual aspects of it, like, who's going to arrange it and how you're going to get everyone there, and blah, 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 right? That's the second level. Bina, which means comprehension, right? Understanding the idea. Okay, breaking it down. And then the third level is da'at. Da'at means, literal translation is knowledge, but it means making this information relevant. Okay? Making this information relevant. There's a story which brings across the point of da'at. What does it mean making this information relevant? So there was once a malamed, which means a teacher, which was in a shtetl, in like a simple farming town in Europe. There's a lot of Jewish farmers, and they a lot of them couldn't read and write and stuff. So they hired a scholar, to come and teach their kids, right? To read and everything. This was a common practice, and they would pay him a salary. So one time, one of the townspeople, one of the farmers, got a letter. But he couldn't read the letter. So he asked the Melamed, the teacher of his children, to read the letter to him. So the Melamed starts reading, and halfway through the letter, the farmer faints. But the Melamed, doesn't do anything, doesn't faint. So the child, that was watching this asked the Melamed, how come he fainted and he wasn't even reading the letter and you didn't faint? So he said, because the letter is someone notifying him that his father passed away. Okay, so for me, I read it, but this is irrelevant to me because it's not my, for him, it's relevant. So it affected him, even though he couldn't read it. This is that. This is the level of that, the third of the 10 attributes, the lowest level of the intellect, and that is when the information becomes one with you, becomes relevant to you. You connect to it not just in an intellectual way, but in an emotional way as well. For example, another example, you can study your whole life in college, certain ideas, very good, but you can just continue and they're just there in your brains, but nothing comes out of it. And that would be when these ideas, you become passionate about them, right? You start, you can study about the environment. That's all very good. But that's all abstract. You study about the environment, you got your degree, you got your diploma, and you left. And that is someone who it means something to them. So they're constantly talking about it and acting and promoting and trying to save the environment and help the environment and recycle and so on and so forth. Right? That is the nature of that. And okay, that, you can write this down. Knowledge connection, connecting with something in a personal way. Okay. And actually, this is actually it's funny because if you look in the Torah in the beginning, you'll see V'ha'adam yada et chava. That's the word it uses.
It does had sex with him.
So yes. So what does it mean? It means Adam and Chava mated. They completed their marriage, right? So the word that is used in the Torah is yada. He knew her. What does it mean? Why he knew her? Because it's that. It's the same word as that, which means a connection, a complete connection. What is the better way of expressing a connection than through that? Yeah, very good. He knew him. He knows everything.
He was a good student.
Yeah. Okay, Livina, personalized information. Okay, now turn to page 102. There's a small exercise. Consider a positive quality of behavior that is currently not part of your life. It should be a quality of behavior you are somewhat interested in gaining, but don't strongly desire. Right? So here, there's different options. You can consider an occasion when you didn't perform well because you lacked a certain quality of behavior. Or consider an instance in which you or someone you know performed well because they had this quality of behavior. And how your life would enhance if you gained this quality of behavior. And the life of your loved ones. And what is challenging you from introducing this quality into your life? And can you think of a solution? Right? So with that, once you activate that, Ratzon will follow. The will follow. So you have an idea. You know what's right. Right? Very good. Someone says, I know that the right thing for me to do is to pray every day. Just for example. To pray. It's the right thing for me to do. Do I do it? No, because I know it. But that's just chokhmah and bina. It's just intellect. It's abstract. The that is when you take that and you connect to it. You make it relevant. You make it relevant to you. And then Ratzon comes from that. Obviously, the lower ratzon, because that's after the intellect. But the ratzon comes from that. The ratzon, when you start having a will to do this, and once you have a will to do this, nothing should get in your way. If you really exercise it the right way. Okay. All right. Let's do a quick summary. Tahorahi, we explained last time, is the soul, the pure soul of a person before any intellect or behavior or emotions. So there's Bina, contemplating God in a personal way, is that, which will trigger a calculated desire for him, which means Ratzon Shelamata, and uncover a concealed innate desire. Leaving you invested in your relationship with God. Okay? So this is how it plays out in our relationship with God. This is the Hishtalshlut. This is the order of how these things work. First, when we're talking about your soul connecting to God, so first you see, for example, wondrous things. Wow, God is crazy. God is amazing. He's really good. He's done such amazing things, such kindness, and then you can connect those things. You can see how these things connect to you personally, how your life is enhanced, right? And this will make a ratzon for God to connect to God, and this will obviously make you invest. Same thing with any relationship, right? If a husband, thinks about all the amazing things that his wife is doing for him and for his family and for the house, and spend 5 minutes.
Go on.
Spend 5 minutes. See, I'm thinking about it. I'm even talking about it. Yeah. You think about those things, you connect to those things, and then you have a dat, you have it becomes relevant, it becomes real to you, and then you have a ratzon, and you have a love, and you connect, and you invest. It makes you want to invest in the relationship, and so on and so forth. Okay. Summary. Our souls have a innate desire for God. Just like we said that a person has an innate desire to live and to live in a house and so on and so forth, and for his kids. So a soul has an innate desire for God, just like because it comes from God, it's a child of God, but it is concealed sometimes. When you develop a calculated desire, which means a ratzon tachton, right? You can develop that through chachma, bina, and dat. Then you get to the calculated ratzon. This will allow you to feel your desire and access your higher ratzon and feel your desire to God.
Lesson 3: the infinite light. 1. In many prayers, we acknowledge God as the Creator and develop a sense of closeness with Him. At the same time, our daily prayers include passages that emphasize God's transcendence, for this aspect of God similarly deserves our attention. 2. Couples can set aside their differences by learning from their souls who were able to become soulmates by sensing God's infinity. Couples can then embrace their personalities and experiences and nevertheless find harmony. 3. Success requires strong desire. Therefore, we are advised to study those areas of Torah in which we already possess an interest. 4. We can generate desire by utilizing our power of dat, connection, to contemplate the importance of a given behavior or quality in a personalized way. 5. Our souls possess an innate desire to cleave to God. If this desire is concealed, we can awaken it by generating a calculated desire for God.
Thank you very much. And remember, nothing stands in the way of will.
So that means next
If
Wednesday.
you want enough, the will is there. Next Wednesday, same time, same place. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Shakoach.
A lot to think about.
Yeah. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.